All right, I think we are recording. Hi, friends. My name is Paige Evanson, for those of you that we do not know one another personally just yet. And I'm going to be doing a series of asking veteran homeschool moms, those that have either finished the homeschooling journey, that are right in the middle of the homeschooling journey, moms of all different homeschool types, so be it. And we're going to learn from one another and I'm going to pick their brains. So these little segments are basically going to be like you peering into my conversations with another homeschool mom. So today I want to introduce you to my friend Ann Brock. We are actually virtual friends. We've never met in person. It's so sad. But we Marco Polo, we use the app Marco Polo all the time, all hours of the day and the evening. And now here we are on a Zoom call. So Ann Brock, welcome.
Hi.
You're technically my first episode of So You Think You Want to Homeschool.
Oh my goodness. I'll
And
probably scare everybody.
well, we will try not to be scary. We will try not to, there's no condemnation here. We do not have it all figured out whatsoever. This
No.
is just two girlfriends chatting with one another. So Ann, tell everybody who you are, like a little bit of, give us the Cliff Notes. Like give us the Facebook bio status type of.
I don't even really have that together. But so like she said, my name is Ann Brock and I live here in Tampa, Florida. It's not where I'm from. It's just where I live. Originally from South Louisiana, south of New Orleans. I lived in Houston, Texas for 15 years. And my family and I were transferred here from Houston to Tampa 5 years ago. It's actually 5 years today.
Oh,
And I
move
have,
anniversary.
thank you. I have two children. I have a daughter who will be 13 in September, and I have a son who is 10 and a half. He'll be 11 in December. So I've been homeschooling. I'm going on my 4th year of homeschooling. And I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur pretty much most of my adult life. And up until recently, I just became an author. And so, yeah.
Do you have your book handy where you can show us? If not, you can show us later. That's okay.
But we can post the link later.
Yeah, we'll post the link later. All purchasable on Amazon.
Yeah, so we just took the dive into homeschooling, and it was something that was never ever on our radar.
Yeah, so that is my first question. What led you to homeschooling? Did you start out like in kindergarten with your first kid, with your daughter, or tell us this journey. What led you to the homeschooling world?
So homeschooling, like I said, was never on our radar before. I had 2 aunts who had successfully homeschooled their children from kindergarten all the way through high school. And I held them very high on a pedestal because to me, that just seemed too daunting of a task. That is so not for me. Never, ever, ever in my life. I am very transparent with the fact that I do not have a college degree. I went for 4 years, had a great time, have nothing to show for it. So it was wonderful. Learned a lot of life learning experiences there. So my confidence was definitely not there to be a homeschool mom. But as God kind of shifted our family dynamic, my son was actually having some difficulties. We had been in a kind of a protected bubble for years in Houston where our family and our friends and everybody we trusted was in our inner circle, and the kids went to school together and they knew the people that they went to school with and whatnot, and everything was great. And then we moved to Tampa where we knew no one and had no family, and that's when we saw the lid being blown off of some underlying issues that we were not aware of in our son. The first 3 months of kindergarten when we started here in Tampa were really difficult. John had a lot of anxiety and he would make himself sick. So for the first 3 months, I would try to get him to school. He would freak out. He would scream and cry and make himself throw up. And then we would be back at home. So I said, this is not my kid. My child has never really done this before. I didn't know what was going on with him. And so he would have to develop rituals in order to be okay, which later came to be a diagnosis of OCD tendencies with anxiety. So we did more digging and more research. You know, something in your mama's gut just tells you something's not right. So I just decided to continue to explore that. And come to find out John was actually on the spectrum and was diagnosed with, they used to call it Asperger's syndrome, but now they just call it high functioning autism. So my daughter, on the other hand, is, she is an exemplary student. She makes A's. She loves school. She puts more pressure on herself than we do. And so she was fine.
Right.
So we tried to actually, retain John in kindergarten. And when we put him in public school here, they told us that we would not be able to retain him, even though he did not have the grades for it. And that if we wanted to try, we would have to fight the school board. So it was a very uphill challenge for us. It was very hard, very emotional journey for us. Anyway, so we went ahead and put him in first grade, and it was really bad. His confidence level just went down to nothing, was barely even putting his name on his paper anymore. And so he was a kid that was also, come to find out, very bored in certain subjects because he was very intelligent in like math and science, and he wasn't getting fed the things, like he wasn't being challenged like he really wanted to be. But in the things like reading and language arts where he really struggled, he felt like he was completely inadequate because his other classmates were already reading and he was not there yet. Gotcha. So, and that happens to a lot of kids, come to find out. You have children that are kind of like this. Yeah. And so anyway, after midway through first grade, we had just kind of had enough and we pulled him out. And that's when homeschooling, because we had priced out private schools, and the sticker shock of that, when they had been in private school before in Houston, in Tampa was a much different scene. And we were looking at about $20,000 to send just him to a private school, because he would have to go to like Tampa Day School or something like that, which specializes in kids with, high functioning autism and whatnot. So, it just, homeschooling was it. And the Lord just kept pointing us to that place.
Right.
So anyway, we kind of went back and forth, and to make a long story short, eventually, and we tried a different school later on. We did homeschool for a little while and said, well, maybe he can go to a charter school. So we put he and my daughter in a charter school. That was a big time fail. So I just said, you know what? Let's call it a wash. Let's bring everybody home. And John was bored anyway. He missed his sister. They're close. They're only 2 years apart. And so at that point in time, I was just like, holy cow, what am I going to do now? 2 kids at home, homeschooling. I still hadn't really grasped what I was doing yet. I was, still trying to wrap my head around it. And that's when community becomes so important. And there were literally people that God purposely put in my path who just took me by the hand and led me through the whole process, which was amazing. And so really it started with John. We had a child that had a need. And then we just decided, well, let's just everybody join the party.
That's right. So did you, was there any resistance that you encountered from either like friends or family members once you finally made that decision to homeschool? And how did you overcome that resistance?
So yes, I did have resistance, because this was also 4 years ago. So it wasn't like right now where you're experiencing people saying this feels like their only option because they're not ready for their kids to go back to class. So in my neighborhood, there were no homeschool communities in the neighborhood we moved into. So whenever I would bring my kids outside, they would say, oh, no school today? And I'd say, well, they're homeschooled. Oh, I get a lot of funny looks.
Yeah.
And then with my immediate family, I think more of the older generation, whatever, is how are your kids going to be socialized? That's, are they going to be, no, I'm going to lock them in a closet all day long and, just slip crackers under the door. But, and so, they had a lot of questions. So I had to be ready to answer the questions that they had. And it was, are they going to, be able to succeed in life because they've been homeschooled. And my two aunts that homeschooled their kids had college degrees, and one of them was a teacher.
Okay.
So their credibility was there. And then there's me, who's riding the back of the bus here, just trying to make it.
Everything's figure outable, and you were figuring it out.
I had to tune that noise out and just trust God in what he wanted me to do with my children and go for it.
Right. So is there like a style or method of homeschooling that you currently use? And for those of you who don't know, in the homeschool world, there are lots of methods. I think of them like personality types. So there is what a lot of people call like a Charlotte Mason style. There's unschooling. There is more like a classical method. There's lots of them that are out there. And so you'll just have to Google homeschooling styles. But so, Ann, what is your style or method of homeschooling that you have found that's worked for you?
Well, let's first of all address the fact that I am probably the misfit of homeschool moms.
Hey.
So I fully wear that hat. Yes. So I don't even know who Charlotte Mason is. I don't know who that is.
I can't tell you because I've never met Charlotte Mason. I think she's dead and gone now, but she's written a lot of books, and she encourages more of like using living books. And she says, don't allow your kids to just have twaddle is what I know she calls it. But she's more like nature studies and learn from your environment, read a lot of books, read a lot of literature, more like think of, not quite unschooling where there's no structure. She would have some structure, but more nature and good books and good literature. And I mean, I don't really know. I'm totally like botching it. Just look up Charlotte Mason style.
I'll look it up. But to be honest, and I answered this last night from a similar call, is that we are very eclectic in what we do with homeschooling, because no two kids are alike. I have my daughter who can go on autopilot, where we tried a curriculum by the name of Abeka when we first started. And that's a rigorous curriculum where you have to buy the entire set. It's like 10 classes, and she's at the computer all day learning from teachers, and there's tests and worksheets and And then my son is outside playing hopscotch and
learning his numbers that way.
Right. So this past year, we kind of put together our own method that worked really, really well for us. And it gave me some time too, because I hear a lot of other people who are thinking about venturing into this is, how can I still have time for myself?
Right.
Can I still hold down a part-time job, whatnot? So my children attend a co-op twice a week. It's a hybrid co-op where they take more of their elective classes there, like art, music, acting, or they do science and history classes. And then I do the core classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Monday and Wednesdays they do that. And I drop them off from 9 until 3. And they are there hanging out with their crew, their friends, whoever, and eating junk food in the hallway and whatever they do there and learning. And that's been great. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I actually have private tutors that I take my kids to and lessons. So for example, and this is definitely a tip for anybody who's thinking of venturing into this, my daughter's public school teacher did not return to school after her, I think, Victoria's third grade year or whatever. So she taught her second grade because she had kids and she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So last year I reached out to her and I said, hey, Lauren, how would you like to make some extra money and teach my kids language arts and math? Because she was a phenomenal teacher. Right. And it just so happened to be that she lived down the street from our new house.
Oh, wow.
And she goes, I said, I'll even babysit your kids. And she goes, yeah, sign me up. So we would go to her house for an hour and a half twice a week and do language arts and math. And the kids loved it. And it's a 1 student to 1 teacher ratio, which you can't beat that.
Right.
And
that's a huge plus.
Yeah.
So I had somebody else ask this question, like, how do you know that you're teaching everything that they'll need to know? I know that's a big fear of a lot of moms embarking on this homeschool journey, is that, will I be able to teach them everything that they need to know? So how would you answer that question?
Yeah, well, first of all, the relationship you're building with your children when you homeschool is different
Right.
than when they go to traditional school. I'm not wanting to raise kids that are, I don't know how to even put this in a different way other than saying, I don't want to raise jerks. And not that other kids are jerks, but so we talk about a lot of like relationship building things and how to serve other people and things like that. And so there's that one side of it. Then, when they're kindergarten through, sixth grade or whatever, make learning fun.
Yeah.
And then they want to learn. When you are trying to make it so rigorous and so structured and so perfect and trying to
Right.
duplicate the classroom, I got a lot of resistance from my kids. They were like, I'm not having this. But when
Yeah.
you get towards the end of middle school and high school, it's when it counts for college. And that's when you actually go and pick a college online. You look at what exactly they're looking for your kids to go to college, and you work by their guidelines.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we do.
So, how do you homeschool? Like, you've got 2 kids, I've got 4 kids. How do you homeschool your 2 kids? They're learning 2 different things. Do you sit down with both of your kids and say, Victoria, you're doing this, and John, you're doing this? And do you sit at the table, and is it all just like one big Pinterest cute little moment? Or are you homeschooling throughout the day? Like, what do you, how do you do it on a normal everyday basis?
So like I was mentioning before with the co-op and then the private teachers and things like that, I am in the car quite a bit. I don't mind shuffling my kids around from place to place. And with the pandemic in mind, we have been doing Zoom classes in addition to that.
Mhm.
And then there's some classes that I have kind of taken on my own, like history or science or whatever. And we just keep it conversational. I
Right.
don't, say, oh, you're going to be tested on this and blah, 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 because they'll spit it back to me anyway.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, when it's regular school time, they have a schedule of places that they have to be. Fridays, we usually take off. I don't teach my kids subjects typically because that's just how I do homeschool,
Yeah.
and that's just my prerogative. So, and with
Right.
homeschool, you can do whatever you want to do.
That's right.
It's my prerogative.
So, you're 4 years into this journey. Is there like a curriculum that you've enjoyed most? Because you've got elementary and middle school right now.
Hmm.
So, and before you know it, you are going to be headed into high school. So, is there like a curriculum that you have enjoyed the most, or that you're like, just throw it all out the window and we'll piece it all together?
We do kind of piece it all together, but the one I was most impressed with last year is Victoria took Apologia,
Mhm.
marine biology,
Yeah, we've used a lot of
and
Apologia stuff. It's good.
because they have labs, and you get
Right.
this whole lab kit with marine biology where you can dissect a shark, a squid, a starfish, a clam, all these things. And I feel like that's what's been missing from public schools. They did away with that stuff a long time ago. So in
Yeah.
this class, they're really digging in there and seeing what is going on, and it makes it fun. So yeah,
Yeah.
I was totally impressed by that.
That's cool. We've used Apologia stuff in the past before too, and it is really good. And I feel like it's like I like the font in the work in the books and stuff. It's easy to read. They have lots of pictures. It's kind of good stuff.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
neat.
so what advice would you give your younger homeschooling self? Like a few years ago, what would you tell that girl who was just starting out?
Calm down. Give
Ser-
yourself grace. Stop drinking in the closet. I'm just kidding.
yeah, it's true. Kind of skews everything.
Right. Well, I think because I thought I had to have it all figured out, and I panicked in the beginning. I
Right.
thought, I put a lot of pressure on myself to get it right. And to the point where I drove all of us insane. And
Right.
then I had 2 kids who didn't want to do jack squat. And then I was just like beating my head against the wall, and we were all mad at each other and
Yeah.
whatever, until finally I just was like, let's stop. And then
Right.
I unschooled for 3 months. And so, we just didn't do anything. We just kind of lightly treaded on school until they were bored and said they
Right.
wanted to learn. But I would just tell her, give yourself grace. It's okay. You're not dumbing your kids down, by my kids are learning a ton now. Like, and it took me a while to figure it out.
Sure.
What's best for them. but it's been really, really cool. I never thought I would want to do this. I tried to send him back to school 2 years in a row when I first started, and God was like, no, this is where I want you to homeschool. So
has there been, like, in your journey, has there been like a failure or a parent failure that you've learned the most from over these years of homeschooling? There's something that you've learned that you wouldn't do or that you would do differently?
I don't know if I would call them failures, Paige. Like,
Well, lessons that you've learned from. Like, I know for me, there's been something, well, for instance, one of our first years, we tried doing a virtual school, and I thought it can't be that hard. Like, it can't be that hard. And we got behind on things. And I would watch the videos that said, don't get behind. Don't just make sure you keep up and time manage. And I didn't do that very well. And then it kind of came back to bite us later. And so I've learned from that, like, okay, be a better time manager.
I guess so. I guess that would be it. I used to, if you want to talk about like a misstep or whatever, I used to let my kids sleep late because they're night owls. They'll stay up all night long and party. And if I let them. And so I was like, well, because they're kind of night people, I just let them sleep until 10 or whatever. And then we do homeschool. And then they missed all their playtime with their friends in the afternoon because they're still doing school.
Right.
So,
that is so true. So true. It is so hard to break that habit.
And then I miss my time with my friends because I'm still worried about what they're doing. So once I put them on an earlier schedule and we were like, being at school by 8:30 or whatever, which is in public school time, that's kind of late anyway, because usually some kids are in there by 7:30.
Yeah.
I had better results because you still have to have some level of structure, I feel like.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like, what are you working towards? I think that was the realization, the aha moment last year was like, Ann, what are you working towards? What are we doing with this? I decided we're riding this out till the end, but what does that look like at the end? It's like planning a business. What's your exit strategy?
Sure. So how do you handle housework and homeschooling? Because I know for me, that was a big adjustment. I mean, these people want to eat all the time. There's still dishes. There's still lots of laundry. You may want to go, I don't know, to the gym, work out, do the things that you normally can do quicker when there aren't necessarily children around. So how do you handle that? Do y'all have
because we're a one income family. So it's not like we're gushing cash where we can be like, let's just hire somebody to come do it for us, So we, it's what a better time to teach your kids how to do chores in the house.
Yes.
My kids are motivated by having some extra spending money, and I don't pay them for everything, but my daughter has been doing laundry since she was in 3rd grade. We're not overachievers, so I don't want to give anybody any preconceived ideas that, we're running a tight ship and everybody's doing everything. My son refuses to do anything, and it's literally Victoria and I doing most of the work, but he'll clean a toilet on occasion.
Yeah.
So that's just what we do. But that's another, I'm not pressuring myself on that. Their education comes first. So when people come to my house, I'm like, it may be dirty. I don't know.
Right. Well, I know I will tell you, one of the best things that I did with laundry this year was I wrote the names of my kids on the wash machine in like a dry erase marker, and I each assigned them a day of doing laundry, because I'm like, I'm no longer responsible for your stuff anymore, and you can visit my laundromat on whatever day you choose to visit it on, and that's the only day you're allowed to go.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to steal that idea.
It helped out a lot, because what we would do is everybody's laundry would all go in, and then there'd be like the big pile that nobody ever folded or ever put away. And so I got them all from like the Dollar Tree, a plastic laundry basket, and said, here's your own laundry basket. You can visit the laundromat today and do all of your stuff. So that really definitely helped out a lot. So, okay. What would you say has been a blessing or an encouragement to you that you didn't see coming from choosing to homeschool?
The closeness with my kids and the closeness I see with the two of them.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I think is so cool, because I'm an only child. I don't have brothers and sisters. So learning how brothers and sisters operate is a really cool thing for me to watch, because I didn't have that. So I have to ask my husband a lot, is this normal? Like,
now, what do you do if your kids are fighting? How do you handle those type of things? Because you know that we've had a lot of togetherness time, so I'm sure your kids probably don't fight, but in the rare occasion that
Oh
they
gosh.
have a
Yeah.
squabble of some sort, what do you
I
do?
don't know. I mean, it just depends on the situation. Of course I yell. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't yell, but it happens sometimes. We lose our cool and
yeah,
everything, but it's just teaching them to go back and apologize and to admit that you made a mistake and call it a truce. We say that a lot, call it a
yeah,
truce. And,
yeah.
you know, it just depends on the situation, but it's nothing more than my son is mostly excited to wake up his sister who will sleep all day if I let her. And
Hmm.
so he runs in the room and jumps on the bed, which totally irritates her. And then she screams at him and then he runs out. So
It's
that's
good
kind of all
times.
it is.
It's good
Uh,
times. So whenever I've got a couple more questions for you, and then we're going to close this out.
okay.
A couple things. When you want to quit, because one of the things that I know when I started my homeschooling journey, I'm like, yay, I'm gung ho. I'm getting all the curriculum. I'm getting all the resources. I've been to the homeschool convention. And then real life hits. Like you start doing this and you get a few months into it and you want to quit. So when I don't know if you've had those moments ever, but let's just pretend that you have had those moments of wanting to quit. What do you tell yourself, or what has helped you keep going when you hit
Well,
that?
yeah, that's normal, right? We all
Right.
hit walls. A year is a long time to commit to anything,
Yeah.
so when you're trying to work through those things, I mean, co-op has been such a blessing to us
Hmm.
because we keep going, but the breaks are important. um you know we in December we take the whole month of December off, because it's longer than most people have, but it allows us to completely decompress and clear our minds so that we can hit the ground running in January and get over the last hump of school and get it done.
Right.
And a lot of times I even change things up too. So we'll
Yeah.
do something for the first half of the year and then change it up and do something different the second half of the year. So we have something to look forward to and it's not the same the whole time.
Um, so what do you do to stay sane
I have friends
during
like you, Paige.
That's right.
Marco Polo you now.
That's right. You got me. You got me in my pocket for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's community and it's having your tribe. It's
Yes.
having people that you can call and say, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get to a place where you feel like you have no me time, that
Yeah.
it's all for them and none for you, and you're gonna feel depleted and drained and whatever. And if there's just one night that you can go to a friend's house and just sit on their couch and you know visit with
Yeah.
them and just share each other's burdens and whatnot, that has been super helpful to me to stay sane.
Right. It does. It really helps to have other moms. And I think I would just tell other homeschooling moms, like, none of us have it all figured out. Some of us are just at different stages of it. So connect with those moms that are maybe in a different stage to give you that little dose of encouragement that, okay, we've dealt with that before. We've wanted to lose our mind as well. But you can do it. Like, it's like you almost just hook up with somebody else and get a little bit of a shot of faith.
Right.
That you
Yeah.
can do
Well,
it.
because you just want to know that you're just aiming in the right direction. Like, am I even doing this right? And some days you want to drive off into the
Right.
sunset and not look back, you
Yeah.
know? And those
It's
are
true. Like reach out for help when those days are when they're there.
Mhm.
And I definitely say, like, it's hard as it is, but get up before the kids do and have at least 5 or 10 minutes. I know it's very hard when you've got really little ones that wake up all throughout the night and or that are up at the crack of dawn, but definitely find some time throughout the day. I remember reading about Susanna Wesley, who had like 18 kids, and she used to put her apron up over her head, and because she could never get away from her children. And so she just told her children, like, when mama's apron's over her head, you are not to interrupt me. Like, this is my time. So if you have to do that, you just get yourself an apron, put it over your head. So,
I think I
okay.
have some.
And what are you totally into outside of homeschooling?
Oh man. Well, the one thing this is so not me, but it is becoming me because of COVID. mostly. I blame it on COVID. And I think this girl was just kind of like underlying. I just pushed her way down with the chocolate and whatever else. And I kept her just sedated. But I have become a gardener.
Really?
Yes. So during the first round of quarantine, I joined a community farm. And I went out there every single day and I got me a little raised garden bed and I started planting. I have never planted anything in my life, but I was a florist for 16 years. Go figure. If somebody else can grow it, I can arrange it, but don't ask me to grow it. And that was so therapeutic for me. And it still is, to just be in the dirt, which I'm not an icky, buggy dirt person, but I don't know. It's just something about having your knees to the earth and just thanking God. And it was just really, it was a place of restoration and just getting back to basics.
Yeah.
I didn't have to think. I just could sit out there and just be still and be quiet and just hear the cows next door. You know, that was it. That's all I needed.
And how did you find this farm to be a part of in Tampa?
Well, this is Abby's Community Farm in Lutz. And anybody can look it up on Facebook or on their website, Abby's Organic Community Farm. But there's lots of community farms all over the place. You just have to know how to find them. Like, I don't know, do Google Maps and type in community farm nearby or whatever.
One nearby.
Because a lot of them will like let you do a CSA share where you do some work and then you get free organic produce in trade for you being there. Abby's just so happens to be $10 a month and you get your own plot of land, your little garden. They give you all the supplies and then whatever you grow, you take home.
That is so cool.
Yes.
Okay, Anne, well, thank you so much for doing this with me. This answered a lot of questions and hopefully will be a source of encouragement. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you and pick your brain a little bit more, is there a way for them to find you or a best way to get in touch with you?
So I have a Facebook page. It's linked to my book and it's called Cliff Dive Books on Facebook page and also on Instagram.
Okay.
So
we'll tag it below in the comments as well. So.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, friend. This was a lot of fun and hopefully it will help some of our other people who are thinking about homeschooling. Our homeschooling have been doing this for a long time. Realize that you are not alone and that we can do this. So thanks for joining me. All right. Bye, friends.
Bye.